UCLA, and Jeffrey Toobin, how monumental this is, and the fact that Justice Gorsuch wrote this decision and was joined by the Chief Justice. People were looking at Gorsuch and looking in oral arguments at what he said, and the question was, where was he going to fall? And now it's very clear.
Well, this is a fascinating and enormously important decision, and it all turned on the meaning of one word in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is sex, because it was quite clear that the Civil Rights Act barred discrimination on the basis of gender. Like, you can't fire someone just because they're a woman. But does the word sex also mean sexual orientation and transgender status? And what the Supreme Court decided today by a vote of 6-3 is that it does. That it means you can't fire someone simply because they are gay. That's a violation of federal law. It's an important point to realize is that most courts that had addressed this issue previously, not all of them, but most courts had gone the other way, had said that that the word sex did not include sexual orientation. But the Supreme Court has spoken very clearly in this decision, 6-3, that it is now unlawful under federal law to fire someone simply because they are LGBT or they're transgender. And it's a big difference from how the law was a half an hour ago, the way it is today.
And Poppy, Jessica, to that point, I think it's important for people to also know about who brought this case and the story behind Amy Stevens, right? The first time that the court has heard arguments on civil rights from a transgender individual. That is also historic.
It is, and I actually spoke with Amy Stevens back in the fall when this case was being heard here at the Supreme Court. Amy Stevens had gone to her employer, the owner of a funeral home in Michigan, and told that employer that she was transitioning to becoming a female. And pretty immediately, the owner of that funeral home fired her, and that is what began her court fight up here to the Supreme Court. And I spoke with her. Unfortunately, she's passed away. She passed away just a month ago before this decision came down. She said that this wasn't just about her. She said that this was about all of the millions of other transgender and gay workers out there. And she did say that even despite this ruling, even if it did come down in their favor, that their fight would continue. They would continue potentially to be discriminated against, though now it's unlawful for employers to discriminate. But it was quite moving to talk with her right before she was listening into arguments here at the court. Unfortunately, she will not be able to really bask in the glow of this victory for transgender individuals as well as gay individuals. And Poppy, what I'll note too is that Justice Gorsuch, the conservative appointed by Donald Trump, he authored this opinion, and during arguments we saw that maybe there was a chance that he would in fact side with transgender and gay individuals, because he said he wanted to look at the text of the statute and the fact that the text says no discrimination based on sex. And he believed that it was very clear that sex incorporated being gay or transgender. One thing that Gorsuch worried about at oral arguments was whether or not a decision in favor of the transgender and gay individuals might create what he called massive social upheaval. They worried about how this would resonate throughout the country. But obviously, Justice Gorsuch, in authoring this opinion, has really put that aside and looked to the strict meaning of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and said that these people, all 8 million plus of them throughout the country, must in fact be protected. Poppy?
You're so right. And following the story of Amy Stevens, the fact that she's not here to see it, but the legacy that is left behind is enormous. Jeffrey Toobin, again, I just want to focus on the point that everyone was looking at Gorsuch here, Justice Gorsuch. And indeed, he not only did he side with the liberal justices, he wrote the majority opinion here and was joined by the Chief Justice. How big is that?
Well, it's just, Supreme Court decisions are often, we talk about abstractions and we talk about, trends in the law. This has a very practical impact on people's lives. I mean, it is true that in some states, it was unlawful under state law to fire someone because they're gay or transgender, but not all the states. And in many states, it was legal to fire people because of their sexual orientation. And now that's changed for the whole country. You can't fire someone simply because they are gay or transgender anymore. That is a big change in American law, in American life, in American culture. And, it's just an example of how our country is changing. Neil Gorsuch didn't turn into a liberal overnight. This was what a decision simply about what the statute meant, and really what one word in the statute meant: sex. And I wouldn't extrapolate more from his views about the Constitution generally, but this decision is this decision, and it's a big one.
As Justice Sonia Sotomayor asked the then Solicitor General during arguments, right, at what point does a court continue to permit invidious discrimination? We've been watching very closely to see what this is. Thank you for